Good morning, everyone. Now let's talk about other features that encourage acquisition. Number one, the student should not be put on the defensive. The praise on the defensive comes from Strebick's well-known book Memory, Meaning, and Method. So it means that the methods and material should not be a test of the student's abilities or prior experiences, should not merely reveal weaknesses, but should help the student acquire more. First, apologize for harping on the issue so much. If we concentrate on supplying comprehensible input where the focus is on the message and not on the form, this will in of itself contribute to a low filter. If the topic being discussed is at all interesting and if it is comprehensible, much of the pressure normally associated with a language class will be off. Anxiety will be lowered and acquisition will result. So this will be alleviated by communicating and giving them clear explanation. Second, we will be able to keep the filter low by not insisting on too early production before the student ready. So, we want our student to talk from the beginning before the student has built up enough competence through comprehensible. While some students may want to talk as soon as possible, a safe procedure is simply not to force production and let the student decide when to start talking. Closely related to speaking readiness for production is the question of error and error correction. Second language acquisition research tells us clearly that errors are inevitable and that they will be plentiful in early stages. The better student average about one error for every 10 words and the less proficient about one error for every 2 words. So, it is attempting to correct errors, especially in beginning stages and especially in spoken language. Most students want to have some of their mistakes corrected as it gives them a basis for improvement. So the students will be improved if they know what is their mistakes. So they have abilities to correct and has the immediate effect of putting the student on the defensive. So it encourages a strategy in which the student will try to avoid mistake. Hypothesis applies to classroom teaching that borrowed from Steven Sternfield, like tell the audience that you are going to give them 2 lessons in a foreign language. For the first lesson, simply start talking saying like this. I am now going to give you a German lesson, but first of all, let me tell you something about the German language. So, students who have never been exposed to German, you should have introduced first what German all about. You have to make a short or brief introduction the about German, what type of accent they have, what type of language they have. The second lesson is something like this. This is my shoe, point to shoe, this is my hand, point to hand, this is my head, point to head, and so on. We use language to share information, thoughts, and ideas, and these viewpoints collectively create culture. Learning a second language connects you to a whole new group of people and their culture. Language makes us feel connected to each other. So the typical situation in the foreign language teaching scene in the United States, after 2 years of instruction, the student who is even willing to participate in a conversation with the speaker of the language he or she has studied is rare. The solution to this problem is to give our students the tools they need to overcome these difficulties, to make them conversationally competent by giving them the means of managing conversations. We can help them to continue improving by allowing them to participate in conversation despite their inadequacies. We can prepare them for the certainty that they will not be able to find the right word, that they will not understand everything, and we can help to ensure that they will continue to obtain comprehensible input. So according to Scarcella, there are at least two ways conversational competence can help the acquirer gain more comprehensible input. So first, devices that help control the quantity of input and devices that help control the quality. So it will help the acquirer get more input. The latter will help to make the input comprehensible. Components of conversational competence included under the quantity category include ways of starting conversation or greetings, and ways of keeping conversations going, politeness, formulate. Scarcella's subject Miguel, a 21 years old speaker of English as a second language. So this conversation is example of Scarcella. So Miguel, by using a few well-chosen routines, is able to initiate and maintain of conversations. Second language performance such as Miguel are not the rule. However, as research has shown that second language acquirers often have surprising and serious gaps when it comes to conversational competence. So there are various techniques that are used to make input more comprehensible to control the quality of the input. Perhaps the most obvious is simply asking the native speaker for help, getting the native speaker to explain parts of the conversation by using discourse devices. So this conversation this conversation is one of example of Scarcella in using discourse devices. So Scarcella also noted that the quality of input can be improved by the use of back-channel cues. So when we say back-channel cues, it is this includes verbal cues such as yeah, the so this includes verbal cues such as yeah, and non-verbal cues such as head nodding at appropriate time and eye gaze behavior. Finally, there are conversational strategies that avoid incomprehensible input, including ways of changing the subject to something easier to understand or more familiar to the acquirer. Scarcella's subject Miguel is quite good at this. So this is the example of Scarcella's conversation. So that's all.